Hi, welcome back to the garden. Today is Tuesday, October 4th. We're at Scott's house and we're going to find out how to take care of your lotus roots for the winter. Now with all the water removed, we can go ahead and move this on inside and just make sure it stays moist, and it'll sit like this all winter long. In the spring bring it out and then fill it back up with water and you'll be ready to go. But there's another technique, and we're going to show you that right now. We're able to show you how to save the roots.
The roots grow and grow at the bottom, and they just push the dirt up, up, up. So, I'm going to put this back over. And what we want to find are roots that have growth tips. That's what you need. Just going to break up this dirt, wash it completely away, because this is a mixture of dead roots and live roots. You need to thin because the dead roots will rot and they mess up the chemistry of the water.
Do we want to do this every year?
I would. That's my experience, is that especially if you've been fertilizing, so they've really been growing, you're going to end up with like that. That's a dead root right there. That's just pulp, you know. So you want to get rid of that and leave room for all the new stuff. 2 years ago, we had that winter that froze everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to plant all new. I thought I would this winter, but I didn't have to. So because of that, I didn't thin. Well, turns out I wish I had. All right, that may be enough for the moment. This is clay, as you can see, basically yard dirt, and it takes a while to work this up. The new growth will be out around the edges, most likely.
Even if you have a first year where you planted with seeds, you would still recommend doing this?
If you planted with seeds, maybe not. And it also depends on the size of your container. But if you planted with roots and you fertilized, you probably would be best off to, here we go, here's what we're looking for. You'd be best off to go ahead and thin it out. Something like that. This is what you're after. Now we're seeing growth tips, and that's what you want. If I were going to save this, I would probably take off. I might take this whole thing, and this is more than enough. I mean, I'll get rid of that. This is more than enough to plant for next year in a pot. You could restart your pot with this and you'd be on your way. So remember, these are your roots. This is actually the stem, and these are the branches with the flowers that come up. Two ways you can do this to preserve this through the winter. Lotus don't have to be babied all that much, but what you want to do, if you want to dry store them, that's where you have like a sphagnum moss, and you would rinse these off, get them clean, put a little bleach in here, you know, maybe a teaspoon per gallon. That's to avoid any mold getting going on it through the winter. So you get it good and clean, and then you would put it in a bed of sphagnum moss, cover it up. That's the gist of it. The other thing is, I made these little containers, and I use these. I would break off enough to put in here, add dirt, add a rock to hold it down, and then I would set these down in my concrete pond.
Okay.
And just set them underwater and just let them winter that way, and that keeps them alive. You got three choices: either keep them in the pot they're in and take it indoors somewhere, or dig them out because you need to thin it, and then save your best roots, being very careful not to break these off, because if you break them off, that's it for that. So you got to preserve these guys, and then you either store it in the sphagnum moss, or you put it in a new smaller thing out of which you will transplant.
Can you actually, looking at this, can you take it each segment? Is that enough to start, or do you want to have at least a double segment, or 4, or how do you do that?
I think 2 is probably enough, and 1 might be, but I mean, you don't have to cut it that fine. Once you start cleaning out and getting your roots, you're going to get big sections, and it really is a question of how many pots do you have. You're going to have roots enough for a lot of pots. With the ones that I order online, they usually send me, like, an order of 1 usually has 2 actual roots, okay. And I'll put 1 on one side of the pot and 1 on the other. But this, this would be a very healthy root for starting. I might even, if I were going to stick it in here, I'd probably break it right here and just, take my chances. So you got a lot of roots, you can afford to make a few mistakes.
Okay.
All right. There's your Hubei edible lotus root. That's the part you eat. Peel it like a carrot, slice it up. There are recipes where you can dip it in certain sauces or even fry it in a batter.
And you can eat it raw?
Oh yes, you can eat it raw.
Excellent. So you just peel it back like a carrot. And this is what it looks like on the inside. That is pretty good. Now I'm going to keep this part and we're going to grow this. I'm going to see if we can't get quite a bit more edible lotus. Scott, I want to thank you for giving us seeds last year and teaching us as much as you know about lotus. Anybody out there, I recommend you trying some lotus. They're beautiful. There are varieties that you can eat. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.